some points on tonight. Matthew 16, verses 13 through 19. And I'm reading from the the New King James Version. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I am? I, the Son of Man, am." So they said, some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." You may take your seats. I want to argue with you that it is possible to have something very valuable, but treat it common. It is not just possible, but it is probably, I would say, probable to have something that has eternal value, but treat it with as if you could find it anywhere. It's possible to if you don't know how much this costs. If you drive somebody's car, you don't pay the payment. So you drive it any kind of way. You just run over the speed bumps, because the speed bumps are just a suggestion. If you don't pay the mortgage, keeping it clean is not a big issue for you. If you don't pay the mortgage, you could sometimes making dirty in the carpet and spilling something on the floor. It ain't a big deal. You're not paying for it. It is possible, saints of God, and that we as members could have something very valuable and could be holding on to something very valuable, but look at it and treat it as common. Jesus asked his disciples, and it's funny because he's talking to the men who should be the closest and the men who have seen every miracle. But he has to ask them some very poignant questions about, what do you see? And what do you say? And what are people saying about me? The region of Caesarea Philippi, I share this with you all the time. We had a chance to do this in Israel where we were in this region. And this was, if you can imagine, there is a gateway. There is a huge rock, a huge, what I would say, a mountainous looking area with caves and entryway that serves as the gateway to the next region. And in this particular space, the water is flowing, and you see these hills and these caves opening up, and it was known as a place where they would worship all the gods. And at this entryway, you would leave one region and go to another region, and you would enter. This was the entryway to the space of Caesarea Philippi, where they would worship all the Roman gods, and they would worship every pagan god there was. Rome was big on saying, listen, you can be a Roman citizen, and you can worship whatever god you want to worship, as long as you include Caesar in this. And so if you can imagine, Jesus is walking with his disciples, and if you can imagine Jesus, the Son of Man, Jesus, the Son of God, is walking, and he walks them right into the region where all of the other gods are worshipped. And before they go into the region that Rome has taken over, before they go into the place where Rome has rebuilt the capital, he says, I got a question to ask y'all. He says, who do men say that I am? You walking with him, you seeing the miracles, but he asks you an identity question. You've seen all the manifestations, and you've seen the demonstrations, and you've heard the proclamations. But he says, what are people saying about me? And then he said, let me make it a little clear. What do you say? Because I think it shows us that as kingdom people, it is quite problematic to have the keys to the kingdom and not recognize what's in your pocket. It's quite easy to treat communion as if it's grape juice and crackers. To treat prayer like I can go to the Father as if everybody and anybody. We treat the prayer as if it's Walmart. That I can go into it anytime, any kind of way, and grab something real cheap, real fast, at my convenience, and get out of there as soon as I can, and I don't have to even keep the receipt. They'll take a return. I want to argue with you that I think we have, from 2024 back, we have got this lax, laid back, almost taken for granted kind of mentality about us. And so, there was something, and I know we're in modern times and we wear jeans and things like that. I got on myself, but there was something about the old school where they would dress up for church. Because when you would put on that your Sunday best, it lets you know it wasn't any kind of meeting, it wasn't any kind of moment, it wasn't any kind of day. You wasn't going to the club, you wasn't going to work. Am I making sense? You were dressing your best because you were getting ready to meet the King. But can you imagine now that the king has said, listen, I've made access to you as good as I can make it, but now the problem is you come any kind of way and you treat me any kind of way. And so what's happened is we may have forgotten who we are. Not just who he is, but who we are. Because I love it because Christ asked him, he says, well, who do you say I am? And then when Simon gave him the right answer, he says, man, that's a great answer. Now, since you recognize who I am, now let me tell you who you are. Because when I fail to recognize who God is, then just by necessity, it means that I'm going to fail to recognize who I am. And I'm going to see myself probably the wrong way. So let's talk about this for a second. Are we all right? So what happens when the called out forget they called out? What happens when the visionaries lose vision? What happened when the saints become the ain'ts? And we don't even approach God with anticipatory awe. Like, I wonder what God's going to do. We literally just come saying, I know it's X amount of time, and I got to check this box. What happens when the called out forget? Notice, he says, I'm going to remind you who you are. Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah. Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. And then verse 18, and also I say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. So I've got to remind you, Peter, not just who you are, but the position you hold. Sometimes God has to remind you not just who you are, but he has to remind you also that there is something different about you. It says that upon this rock I will build my church. You may have forgotten that you are called out. How should a called out person approach a service? Even when you ask that question, it's funny because many people say it, I really haven't thought about that. Which means that some kind of way we've taken the relationship and we've made it casual. We've taken this meeting and made it common. We've taken this moment that some people will never have because they don't have access to the King himself. But we got access to the King, and we treat it like it's a drive-through. We treat it like it's 7-Eleven. We treat it like it's Whataburger open 24 hours a day. We treat it like I can roll through and just order by number real fast. Let me get something quick from God real quick and everything else. And I'm not thinking that this is the place where miracles are supposed to happen. This is a place where power is supposed to be released. This is the place where demons are broken and demonic spirits are cursed. This is the place. I entered a war zone casual. Upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. I'm supposed to be entering warring territory. I'm supposed to be thinking like a commando, and I'm walking in, and I didn't put on my boots, my belt, my fatigues. I'm walking in, bombs and bullets flying around me, and I'm saying, what's going on around here? Because I've some kind of way slipped out and said, I just forgot. I took it for granted. I ain't thought about it. I've never asked myself, how am I supposed to approach God as a kingdom person? I never asked myself, am I operating with vision still? Do I serve God with vigor, or do I serve God to check the box? Did I come here believing that God could turn these things around, turn my life around? That even when I pray, do I pray as if a miracle is, listen, the manifestation of a miracle is on the tip of my lips? Do I pray like that, or do I sit there and with my arm folded saying, let's hurry up and get to this next prayer so we can move it around, we can move service along? So it's a very interesting thing to watch because the church, the called out. He says, I will build my church. This called out people who have to be built. Tell your neighbor, say, I've got to be built. So that means, wait a minute, this word built, orchidemeo, which literally means that when I understand that I am part of the church, that means that I am under construction, that God is actually working on me. And part of the construction project is this. It's a total refurb. It's tearing, not just tearing the walls down, but it's tearing every part of it down. It's tearing, I got to go up and tear up the foundation. And my problem is I come to church and I want to keep my foundation. I want to keep my walls. And all I want God to do is actually just clean up a little furniture, dust a little bit. When I was little, I used to, the Saturday morning cleanup. Everybody knows the Saturday morning when the music starts to play and you up and you got to clean it and you got to clean up. And I remember I used to try to get away with dusting. and I would try to get away with dusting around the pictures. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Where you didn't move nothing, you just dusted right around it. Anybody ever tried that with your parents? You tried to move, and then you was like, it's good, and then your parent walk up and be like, you ain't clean nothing, and they would take the pictures out, and you see the little lines and everything else. Am I making sense? But listen, I want to talk to the man or woman who's used to worshiping with residue, because God has not moved you in years. You haven't had anything shake you in a long time. And so you just come to a service and you just do a little dusting real quick, and you like, I'm good. See, it's already clean. But sometimes God has to come in and start picking up stuff and say, look at this mess right here and everything else, because the residue always rests upon what you used to seeing. And there are things that we are used to seeing, and things that are reminders of our family and everything else that now we have left, and we done left them there for so many years. That picture has been sitting there on top of that shelf. Am I making sense? And you come service after service, day after day, and God has not moved you in a long time. It says, I will build my church. God said, I will build. He didn't say I will dust. He didn't say, he says, I've got to tear up some stuff, and I've got to build up some stuff. Am I making sense? So that means when I come to worship as a kingdom citizen, I'm coming understanding that I am under construction. I'm coming that I'm understanding that God, you got to tear up whatever needs to be torn up, that you got to dig up my foundation. There are things that I want you to do that you're not going to do, because I got the wrong expectation. There are things that I don't expect you to do that you're gonna do, because I don't even have that expectation. There are things I don't believe you could do, but you are well able to do, but I just don't believe you like that no more. Am I making sense? So he says, I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it, and I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. I haven't thought about the fact that wait a minute, when I'm coming, that I have the door, I have the key to the access for everybody. Everybody, they can't enter in unless I open the door. And I've gone a week without opening the door for anybody. I've given you the key. See, we pray the Lord. We say, Lord, let them in. And God says, I gave you the key. Have you ever, listen, have you ever got a call from somebody saying they locked out, and you say, I gave you the keys. Because you can't understand why we're having this conversation. You know, I'm like, I gave you the keys. Did you lose the keys? Am I making sense? And when I was little, I think I was in second or maybe second, third. I don't remember what grade it was. But you know, being that my mother was a teacher in Dallas, and I was going to school in Waxahachie, so that she had a little bit of a commute. And so I was what they would call a latchkey kid. I don't know what that was. I just knew that I had the keys. And my mother, when I was real little, she would pin the keys to the inside of my shirt, so that no matter how much I played all day and how much I did, and how much fun I had in class, that when it came time to go home, that I had the keys. And listen, and the worst woman you want to ever get in life is to lose that key. Listen, can you imagine that God is looking at kingdom people and saying, I gave you the keys. You asking for new miracles in 2025, and he's like, I gave you I gave you the keys. You asking for God to turn things around. He says, you the one. Why you want me to commute all the way down to let you in when I gave you the... Am I making sense?
Thank you for worshiping with us today. If you liked this message, you can find the rest at cmllcstore.com. We invite you to join us again for our extraordinary worship services every Sunday at 10:30 a.m., Sundays at 4 p.m., and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Central, where Dr. Moody teaches how to understand the Bible, and you can get all your biblical questions answered. We look forward to connecting with you. We ask that you subscribe to The Rock ATX on YouTube and follow The Rock ATX on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected to all The Rock is doing. You can also get connected on our website at therockatx.org. Again, thank you for worshiping with us, and be blessed.